So by now, you've heard of Saudi Arabia's Neom, the high-tech futuristic wonderland. It will be made up of the mountain resort Trojena, Oxagon, the floating industrial site, and of course, the Line, the futuristic line city that cuts right through the Saudi Arabian desert. Everything makes perfect sense and should go off without a hitch, right? On this episode of Built a Billion, we'll take a closer look and answer that very question. Starting with Trojena, here you have a mountain resort on steroids with a massive artificial lake, a weird mirrored cave, some ultra-luxurious housing, and the world's most advanced healthcare center. This is actually the most realistic part of Neom, believe it or not, because after this, things start to get a tad, let's say, overambitious. Next we have the Oxagon, the high-tech seaport slash industrial site slash residential area that aims to float on the sea, or at least half of it will. The Oxagon is supposed to have 100% renewable energy, an automated seaport, clean and advanced manufacturing, research and innovation, and all the things that make you feel warm inside. But also, you're smack dab in the middle of a desert, so why have half of your city float in the middle of the sea, blocking your seaport and exposing it to potential environmental damage? But the Oxagon doesn't hold a candle to the most ridiculous part of the project, the Line. The Line is a 170-kilometer long, 500-meter tall, 200-meter wide, mirror-plated skyscraper that will be built along the desert. So what's wrong with this project? Well, everything. Cities don't operate that way. The city has an interesting layout. The average person is always 5 minutes away from amenities, 2 minutes from nature, and there are no emission sources. And of course, the project is said to be powered 100% by renewable energy, which is great and all, except for the fact that they're trying to do this in a 170-kilometer long structure in the middle of the desert. Line city concepts are nothing new, we just don't build them. Linear cities needlessly stretch everything out. What if the specific amenity you need is at the end of the line? Well, there are no shortcuts, buddy. You must travel 170 kilometers to get there. In addition, the developers claim the city was built in a line shape to address the problem of sprawling, which is a current issue in Saudi Arabia, but sprawling only occurs when cars are involved. Cities that were built without cars in mind are space efficient by nature, so they could have just built a carless city. But that's not marketable enough, I get it. So now we have the Line. But as a matter of fact, if the city was a cube or a cylinder, you would only need a 3.3 kilometer radius structure to achieve the desired 34 kilometer squared footprint. I don't know if the Cup City would make headlines, but it's what they should be building if they want to be efficient. I mean, why drag out resources for 170 kilometers? Because a cylinder just doesn't have that je ne sais quoi, people. And another problem with these pre-planned, overly ambitious mega projects is that no one accounts for population growth. The city is built for 9 million people, but what if it exceeds that? It's not like you can expand outside and build new districts. Stuck inside the concept of the Line, prices will inflate pretty quickly if the population exceeds the cap. And on the opposite side of the spectrum, if you don't have enough population, you're left with abandoned stretches of line that still must be maintained to avoid cutting the line in two. Before we continue, if you love to hear about all the mega projects of the world and you're enjoying this content, please hit that subscribe button and help us reach our goal of 1,000 subscribers. It'll really help the channel out. Now back to the video. The Line lifestyle. Let's be honest, the mirror line looks cool in the 3D models, but living on top of each other in a cramped space sounds pretty crappy. And it only gets worse when you think of the severe psychological effects that it would have. In addition to this, the zero-gravity urbanism model the city has hopes to make everything accessible in low-mobility groups. So this entails a system of escalators and elevators that can take you up to 500 meters, but multiplied by 170 kilometers. So let's say the Line has 20 elevators and 10 escalators for every section of, say, 500 meters. That's 6,800 elevators and 3,400 escalators. Who is building this? Then there's the matter of vitamin D deficiency. You're not getting any sunlight unless you live on the sunny side of the Line or visit the top of the city. Or you could always go outside to escape that depression into the open, empty desert. And what better way to get there than with NEOM's transportation system, which surely is way better thought out than the rest of the project, right? Transportation. The planners' idea for the transportation in the city are a metro line, freight train line, and high-speed transit line that all run at the bottom for the entire length of the line. Let us count the ways it's stupid, shall we? Well, you'd have to build 170 kilometers of subway, then go back and build 170 kilometers of a freight rail, and then go back again and build 170 kilometers of your rapid transit system that can go the entire distance of the line in 20 minutes. This train would have to feature maglev tech and go 316 miles per hour in order to achieve this. The current fastest train in the world, the SC maglev in Shanghai, only goes 284 miles per hour, and the Chuo Shinkansen in Japan is the only train that would come close to the 316 mile per hour speed. And it's currently being worked on. So NEOM would have to make a very quick leap in tech ahead of engineers that have been doing this for some time. Not only this, but what if there's a failure at any point in your 170 kilometer line? Well, there goes your entire rapid transport system and chaos would ensue. This is the result of having one transit line for 9 million people. If one person fell on the tracks 50 kilometers away from you, you're screwed. No transport for you or anyone else until the situation is fixed. If only there were some way to solve these problems, like a regularly shaped city. Location. Building a space-efficient city would be understandable if you weren't literally building it in the middle of a nearly unlimited space in the desert. Well, unlimited once Saudi Arabia harassed, abducted, and displaced the native tribe from their homeland to build the city. Imagine being forcefully removed from your home for something as dumb as this. Any city on a map is built either next to a river, built on top of an oasis, or on the coast. But when it comes to the line, there's not a lick of water around, meaning food and water would have to be shipped in and then dispersed along the entire length of the line. But unfortunately for the Saudi government, NEOM isn't happening the way they envisioned. Let's talk about it. Construction and financing. On paper, the NEOM project costs $500 billion. That sounds doable until you add in a huge floating city, mountain resort with an artificial lake, and a 170-kilometer-long skyscraper that includes miles of rail and maglev. Think about this. The entire line would be comprised of 6,000 Empire State Buildings, and just one Empire State Building costs the equivalent of $572 million. Mind you, you have to build out all of the infrastructure and utilities of the city from scratch. Needless to say, $500 billion isn't gonna cut it. But on the bright side, the price could be undercut with some good old trusty foreign slave labor. There are many other problems with this city. The main goal of this project is to create a trade line between Saudi Arabia and Egypt while bypassing Israel, but they could do it without all the smoke and mirrors. Why not build a sustainable emissions-free city with no cars? Why not build a normal seaport and a normal mountain resort? The bigger and more impressive the project, the more satisfying it is for the ego of a country's leader. That's why when you mix construction with a dictator, you usually get dumb mega projects. Refer to Hitler and Lenin. This is nothing new. What do you think about NEOM? Let me know in the comments below. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and click that video on the screen to watch something you haven't seen. And thanks for visiting Built a Billion.